So today I have a get ready with me while I talk about some of my mental health stuff. And I know my face is like really shiny, it's because I just put moisturizer on, but my foundation will go on better if I have moisturizer on first. Okay, so me and one of my best friends were talking the other day, and we talk about like mental health like a lot, because that's like a big thing for me. Like, I feel like my two biggest issues, aside from like not having a job yet, are my mental health and my kidney stones. Like, I feel like the more I like live my life, the more I like realize things about like my mental health and like discover things about myself. This is a sample of a foundation that I'm using. I think it's from Tarte. There's literal cat hair in here. How? Okay, so first thing that I want to talk about is why I went off my anxiety meds. Because this like is the whole thing that like started our conversation kind of. So I went off my anxiety meds in like towards the end of the summer, and everybody was like all concerned. My mom was like, I don't think this is a good idea, and I was like, no, I'm doing it. Whenever I like decide something, I'm like, that's it, it's decided, it's done, we're doing it. And when I make like decisions, there have been many times when people think I'm making a bad decision and it turns out to be great. So I just trust me now. I don't trust other people's opinions as much as my own, because I've been making decisions that go against what other people think for a while now, and they've all turned out great. One of the biggest decisions where I went against people, like literally everybody in my life, was deciding to go to college online. And here I am with 4.0 GPA, bachelor's degree. I think that turned out fantastic. So I decided to go off my anxiety meds because I felt like I was doing better. And it was actually really funny because I went off, and then like a month later, that's when I started freaking out about Thanksgiving. And then for like a whole month, I was just like in a state of panic. So, but it was fine, and I handled it, and I didn't have like a mental breakdown over it. So I was like, that's your proof that I can like handle things being off my anxiety meds. There you go. So let me talk about why I went off of them. First of all, I just felt like I was doing better. Like, if it got really bad again, I wouldn't like be totally against going back on, because they did help, but I didn't like them. So let me explain. When I was on Lexapro, for reference, if that means anything to you. Lexapro is also an antidepressant, in case you're wondering. And it made, like, the biggest thing that I noticed that it was doing to me was making it so I didn't have, like, any real emotions or feelings on anything. Which, I get it, because it's like, okay, well, if you don't have, like, any emotions on anything, then you're not gonna get super anxious or super depressed, because you just feel nothing. Like, I felt like the literal meaning of like dead inside. Like, I feel nothing. I was still like anxious, but not like it was a different kind of anxious. And there was more, I just don't care about anything feelings just all the time. And I had said this in some other videos, but when I'm not anxious, or at least not to a certain level of anxiousness, I lose all my hobbies, because all my hobbies are my coping skills. So I love to play music and ukulele and guitar and sing and all that stuff. But I lost interest in all that. I lost interest in writing fan fiction. I lost interest in everything because I wasn't anxious, so I didn't need anything to cope with anything. So I would just do nothing all day. So I was very like disturbed about not having any hobbies anymore. And like I could do those things, but I wouldn't enjoy it, if that made any sense. And I'm sure part of that is because I just felt nothing. Like, there were times when things would happen and I'd be like, oh, I should be really happy about this, but I just didn't feel anything. And there were other times where I was like, wow, I should be really upset about this, and I just felt nothing. And it was like disturbing and like would make me feel guilty for not feeling a certain way, because I'm like, wow, normal people would feel this emotion and I just don't. So hated that. Like, great if you're anxious because it does what it's supposed to do, but I felt nothing. And there's this song that I discovered on TikTok a few weeks ago, and it's called Numb Little Bug, and I was like, wow, this is like a great song. I relate to this so much, and it's about like mental health. And I watched this like interview where she was explaining her lyrics and like the story behind the song, and she was saying how she was on antidepressants and she got like signed by like producers or whatever, and she was like, I should feel so happy, this is like what I want in life, but she just didn't feel anything. And it's the same reason, because the antidepressants made us feel like we just have no emotions or feelings for anything, and she like felt guilty that she wasn't like happy about this. And I was like, yes, that's exactly like my reasoning for going off of mine. I keep like losing my train of thought because I'm so stressed for my job interview this week. This is gonna be my highlighter right here. I think she said she eventually decided to go off of her antidepressants because it was more important to her to feel the happiness in life and still be depressed than to just feel nothing. And that's exactly how I feel too. Like, I would much rather feel depressed and have all of those bad feelings and the anxiety and everything, because then I get to actually feel something. And I would rather have my hobbies and my coping skills. And like, for me, I become my most creative when my mental health is like the worst. So I always use that to my advantage. If I'm like working on something, I'm like, wow, I am not doing well right now, let's do something creative. Like, I feel like the best art comes from like the worst places. And I have like this one fan fiction that I wrote in like 11th grade, and it's called Riker's Depression, because we all know I write about Riker. And that, for a time, not anymore, now I have a book that's higher than this, but for a time that was my most popular fan fiction because it was so just like dark and so mental health focused, and that was like what I did with my time to like cope with how I was feeling. And that just like proves that to me, that like, wow, the best art comes from like the worst places. And that's not a bad thing, that's like a good thing. That's like showing like, wow, I'm doing something good with these bad feelings. I have been not well lately just because things are just stressful. And like, okay, here's one of the things that's currently going on. In my last video I said my dad was like sick with something. It's not COVID, but my mom caught it. And now I'm just like here being like, am I gonna catch it? When is that gonna happen? Am I gonna have no voice for my interview? Like, I'm waiting to see if I get sick now, but I kind of don't think I'm gonna, just because I tend to not get sick, and we have learned that part of that is due to my kidney stones. The one good thing that my kidney stones do for me. So I have excessive vitamin D, and apparently that helps you not get sick. Like, I'd rather get sick and just not have kidney stones, but you know, it's not my choice to make. I've been spending a lot of time on fanfiction and my book, and like the other day, it was so weird. I was like, this is like such a weird thing to say, but I feel like this is like so true. I sent my friend this message and I was like, I feel like my mental health is so bad, but I feel like I'm like thriving because of all of like the stuff that I'm doing. Like, having bad mental health makes me like do things to like cope with it and distract myself. And I feel like I just do better in general when I'm doing worse. If that makes any sense. And that's like horrible to think about, because it's like, wow, I have to be doing bad to be doing good in life. Like, but when I'm like, I don't think I could ever just be like a normal happy person, like, ever. Like, that sounds weird, but like, I'm always gonna be anxious, I'm always gonna be stressed out, and I can have happy moments if I'm not on Lexapro, but I'm always gonna be like, oh my gosh, there's so many things I have to do, and worrying about so many things. And if I'm on Lexapro, then I'm not gonna be happy or sad, I'm just gonna be nothingness. So it's like, well, I'm probably not gonna be happy no matter what I do. I'm probably just gonna be at best content. So I'd rather be content and still doing things in life than content and feeling nothing and doing nothing, because I need no coping anything to do and no distractions, so I'm just doing nothing. So I've come to the conclusion that I would rather just be depressed and anxious and do things to deal with it instead of taking something. And that's not to say that I wouldn't take something in the future if it got really bad, because the other day I actually was thinking about going back on it, because I still do have some Lexapro left over from when I decided to like go off of it. So I had like a brief thought of, I'm not doing well, maybe I should go back on. And that was for like 1 minute, and then I was like, nah, we can't do that. Because like, there's so many things I want to get done, and I just know that they're not going to get done if I go back on. And that like, that sounds really unhealthy and like really weird. But you know what? I've just come to the conclusion that I'm just a weird person, and I just gotta figure out what works for me. So that's what I've come up with in the past few days, and those have been my thoughts. So there you go. That's my current mental health. Because like, the thing is, if I go back on the Lexapro, that's fine and dandy, but then I'm gonna have no motivation to finish my book. My book's never gonna get finished. I'd rather finish my book. So, there's so much going on. Like, so much to stress about, so much to worry about, so much just happening all at once. So many unknown things. What are you gonna do? So I'm hanging in there, doing all the things that make me happy in the meantime. So I'm gonna use this palette today because it's really pretty. People like, I feel like this was one of the most hated on palettes from Urban Decay, but like, you people, I think it's pretty. Like, look at that, it's pretty. I'm gonna do some weird colors today, like color combos, because I'm feeling it. That's like another thing. I have learned really well how to like tell things about my mental health. Like, as I said, the longer I'm like alive and living my life, the more I like figure out things about myself. So I'm gonna take this shade here, and this is gonna be my lid color, but this is gonna be my crease color. So one of the things that I have discovered about myself is, this isn't necessarily like, I don't think you would call this like a coping mechanism, but it's just something that I notice that I do, I guess subconsciously. We all know I'm a colorful person. Look at my shirt, it's like tie-dye colors. My walls are bright aqua, I love colors, we know this. The more anxious or depressed, or the more my mental health goes down, the more colorful I get. So I've noticed, like, during my worst times, I'll be doing colorful makeup. I'll be dyeing my hair different colors. Like, I just get more colorful the more my mental health goes down. And sometimes, like, I don't even notice that my mental health is like going down, but I'll notice that I'm like doing more colorful things, and I'll be like, ooh, I feel like this is like a red flag that like something bad is about to happen. And I don't know anybody else who just gets more colorful the more anxious they get. But I guess that's also kind of like the same thing as like, well, I get more creative and I like write more fan fiction or whatever. I guess that's kind of the same thing, but it's like another thing that I've noticed about myself. So like, you can always kind of gauge my mental health by like my makeup that day. And it's like, here's like another good like reason. I feel like these are good reasons to not go back on my anxiety meds. Like, you might think these are dumb reasons. You might be like, Kylie, you're stupid. Why would you like take something to feel better? But these are just my opinions, and this is what I feel like is best for me. You can disagree. You can tell me your opinions. This is just what I'm doing. But when I'm on Lexapro, I have like no motivation to do my makeup. I'll do my makeup, but more for like if I'm gonna see people or for like a YouTube video or something. Not just because it's something that I enjoy doing. Like, I just lose interest in everything when I feel nothing. And I would rather feel something than nothing, even if it's bad. Is that like crazy? Or does that like make sense? I feel like it makes sense, but I also can see how people would think that's crazy. This eye look is not going to go at all with my outfit, but I don't really care. Because this is what I woke up in. Okay, now I'm doing the shimmer shade. I don't know, I feel like with mental health, there's not like an answer of you should do this or you shouldn't do this. I feel like everybody has to like figure out for themselves what works for them. Or figure out the best solution, even if it's not the perfect solution. Like, yes, I would love to be happy and to not be anxious at the same time, but I don't think that's going to happen, so this is my best case scenario, and I'm fine with that. Okay, I'm gonna use this shade. It's like this weird teal shade. This is where my weird color combos come in. We have like orange, and then we're gonna do teal. And those are kind of like complementary colors because they're opposite from each other on the color wheel. We had a whole debate the other night at dinner over warm and cool colors. So my dad, he's like not artistic, not musical, has none of like the arts in him whatsoever. He is very math and science brainy, and like so am I, but I definitely have a lot of like the arts in like my genes from my mom, because my mom is very artsy. She went to college for art. So he just doesn't understand like music. It's just one of the things that he just doesn't get. And we've like tried to explain to him many things, like what is a key, what are like, I don't even know what else. But we've tried to explain things to him that are music related, and he just like doesn't get it. And I found out that apparently he also doesn't understand art stuff. Because we were like talking about warm and cool colors, and that's like, not that that's like a thing in makeup, but it is a thing in makeup, because when you're picking like foundation colors, you have to know whether your skin is warm toned or cool toned, because everybody has different undertones. And like mine are pink. My cheeks are like always pink. My skin is just naturally like pink, and some people have more yellowy skin. So it's a thing in makeup. I've also heard people talk about like, oh, this is like a cool toned pink. Pink is a warm color, but it can be a cool toned pink if it has certain undertones. If you get what I'm saying. So, I don't even know how we got on this topic, but my dad was like, how do you know if they're warm or cool tones? I'm like, well, you learn it, for one thing. But like, we also got into like the topic of like different colors make you feel certain things. And he was like, I think that's just because people were like, you know what, when you see blue, you feel sad. And I was like, I don't think that's how they did that. I think people were like, wow, when I see blue, makes me feel sad. And then they were like, all right, so that's what blue makes you feel. They didn't decide that, and then people were like, yes, now I feel this when I look at this color. Like, people saw different colors, and they were like, oh, this makes me feel this way. So then society was like, okay, collectively, people generally feel this way about this color. Like, and he just, like, didn't get that. And then we had a whole conversation about, like, okay, well, Brown isn't on the color wheel, so what is that? Gray isn't on the color wheel. Like, and I'm just like, these aren't normal questions. Like, so we had a whole color discussion the other night. It's very hard to like be into music and art and have somebody who just doesn't get it and try to explain it to them, and like they just don't get it. So these are my eyes so far. Has just teal in the inner corner because I thought that would be cool and snazzy. So let me tell you some of the things I'm currently stressed about since we're not done with my makeup yet. It's May. I didn't realize it was May until I looked at my date on my laptop. It was like May 1st. Actually today I think it's May 2nd. And I was like, oh my goodness. I can't believe it's May already. Like, I feel like it was just February. Don't know where all that time went. Okay, I have 3 eyeliners. They're all like different shades of teal. I feel like that's excessive. Why do I have so many shades of teal? I'm gonna go with this one. So this is an eyeliner from ColourPop in the shade Zulu. So I'm stressed about my job interview. When I am stressed, I feel like I have so much energy because I'm just like, and that's how I feel today. Today is Monday. My interview is on Thursday. Freaking out. Stressed about that. Stressed about, I don't know if I'm gonna get sick or not. I'm thinking not, because I haven't yet. So hoping not, fingers crossed. I'm also stressed because we are going up to my cabin, but we don't know when. And that's just like stressing me out because I have to like pack for that and I need time for that, and I would rather know sooner rather than later so that I can like get a head start on that. And then we are scheduled to have a garage sale, and that's always a whole big thing. I have vlogs from that from last spring, and it was very tiring because we had to bring all this junk from our basement down to the end of our driveway, and we don't have like one of those houses where you just like open the front door and you can see the road from there and your driveway is like 20 feet to the road. Like, we have a long windy driveway, so it was a whole thing, and we had to get up early, and it was cold and everybody was tired, and I'm not a morning person, so I'm not looking forward to that. So that's another thing. And then I feel like I don't know if I'm gonna get this job. I don't know if I do get this job when I'm gonna start. I don't know, like I don't know how things are going to work together and what schedules are going to like conflict and stuff with like my job and the garage sale and going to my cabin and packing and all of that. There's like too much happening. Too much at once. And I'm also like putting out YouTube videos and writing my book and writing fan fiction and trying to study for my interview. That has been one of the most stressful things because I know nothing about it. I've never been interviewed before. Like, I know nothing about this. This is my first job interview ever. I watched like all these videos on YouTube about like interview stuff, and like they were all British people who were like making these videos. I'm like, why are there no Americans? Like, it's nothing wrong that it's all these British people making these interview videos, but I was like, that's kind of weird. Like, why? So my mom is gonna help me, and we like are writing down questions and answers so that I know what some of the questions might be and what good answers are. But she's been sick all weekend, so we haven't done any of that. So now it's Monday and my interview is Thursday morning, and I'm like, we are running out of time for me to remember this stuff and to learn this stuff. There's like so much to like learn of like what you should and shouldn't say and how you should answer a question. And then there's like this other thing, which I didn't know was a thing, but it's apparently a thing. There's the STAR method, which is like how to answer a question apparently. And it's like this method on how you answer an interviewer's question to give the best answer, and then also like what to do if you don't know the answer, what to do if you've never been in that situation that they're asking about before. And like, I have never had a job before. Like, this is a job, but like, I am my own boss. I am my own person who makes my own money from this. So like, this, not like really like a typical normal job, if you get what I'm saying. So I don't like have coworkers. So I haven't been in a lot of like situations where normal interview questions would apply to me, if that makes sense. Like, if one of the questions was like, can you tell me about a time that you had like conflict in your workplace? Well, it's only me. I don't really have conflict with myself. So it's like, well, what do you say for that? Like, many questions like that, it's like, this involves other people, or like a boss, or like, you get what I'm saying? I have not had a job with that. So it's a lot of figuring out, okay, what do I say for this? How do I make this into like an answer that makes sense? Because you don't want to say, well, I've never been in that situation before. So like, for example, one of the things that I'm doing for those questions is I've been a volunteer for a nonprofit youth retreat thing for like, since like 2015. I've worked with people on that. It's not working as in getting paid, it's volunteering. But on all the videos that I watched, they like, use your volunteer experience, use experience from living in your own house, like use any experience that you can if you've never had a job before. So I can answer some of the questions that involve other people with like those experiences. And then there's a couple questions that I can't really answer with that. Like, this is going to sound dumb, but one of the questions that like I don't have a good answer for, because we looked up like what are popular interview questions. One of the questions is like, talk about a time you made a mistake in your workplace and like, what did you do? This is my lip color. This is from Becca, and it's in the shade Tiger Lily. And it's like with the youth retreat thing that I do, we are given very explicit instructions on like everything. There's like, if you made a mistake, it's because you didn't look at the instructions. And I'm such an anxious person that, you know, I've looked at these instructions 20 times. So it's like, I have never made some crazy detrimental mistake because I've done this a bunch of times. And it's like the same thing every time, basically, because we're running a retreat weekend. The same thing basically happens every time. And I don't have any good examples of some horrible detrimental mistake that I've ever made. So I don't have a good answer to that. So that's something I need to think about before my interview in case I get asked that, because I don't know what to say. Like, one of the things you can say is like, well, I've never been in this situation, but if I was, but then I have to think of like an example of like some dumb thing that I could make a mistake with. Biggest thing that I've like gotten out of like preparing and studying for this is that you don't want to just say, no, I've never been in that situation, so I don't know, or just flat out, I don't know. Like, you have to come up with something and like always end it on like a positive note. If you were answering the mistake question and say you had like some example of like, oh, I made this mistake and then my company lost a bunch of money, say that's your mistake. You don't want to end it by being like, and then I got fired. Like, you don't want to like end whatever answer you're giving with something bad, because then that's gonna like leave like a bad taste in their mouth. You want to like somehow put like a good spin on it, and like, if you were fired, maybe don't say that, and maybe be like, so I learned a lot from that, and so then I learned not to ever do this again, or like whatever. So I'm stressed for this week, probably for the rest of May, till I figure out what's happening. And I would love to have this be the only interview that I ever have to do and just get this job, so that then I have a job and then I'll have money and then I won't have to interview for anything else. And then stop applying for jobs, because applying for jobs isn't necessarily stressful, but a lot of jobs, it's like, I'll attach my resume, so they have my resume, but then they want me to type in all of my resume information. I'm like, what is the point of this? Just look at my resume. So it's just very annoying applying for a bunch of jobs. I'm like, I feel like there should be a thing, like an established unwritten rule that when you like apply for jobs, people get back to you within like a reasonable amount of time and be like, either, hey, we're moving you to the next step of the hiring process, or hey, you didn't get the job, so that you like know what's going on. Because I feel like half my applications, they have said nothing to me. Like, can't people just like get back to you? Like, oh, so annoying. So anyways, that's my story for today. It's my mental health. That's what I'm stressed about. Here's my makeup look with my aqua, I don't know, I think it's summery, and it's not summer yet, but we're getting there. So, ooh, my lips match. Maybe it's my lips. I feel like I've been all over the place because I'm just so, thank you guys for watching. If you have any thoughts about anything, comment them down below. Also, make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button, turn on my post notifications. I forgot what I was saying there for a second. See you guys in my next video. Bye.